The nominees are... Hello, everyone. As Dad and I are busy watching old movies in preparation for our regular episodes, I thought I would share some behind-the-scenes B-roll practices that we did. I think that there's some good, fun, and interesting stuff here, but they don't quite fit into our regular episode format. I still think that they're valuable, and I think that you will still probably enjoy listening to them. I'm calling this collection of 4 mini episodes Season 0, something like an extended pregame show. These will help you get to know us somewhat so we don't feel like complete strangers to you, but they'll also give you some interesting trivia as well as some insight into the show. I hope that you will enjoy these pregame mini episodes and that they whet your appetite for the regular episodes that are to come. In this 4th and final pregame mini episode, Dad and I go over Best Picture winner stats and have some silly things to say to each other throughout. Okay, so in terms of the founders, how many would you say that there are in the research you've done?
Well, according to this book, again, let's talk about this book, and I think we need to be careful when we refer to something that we need to give credit to the.
Correct. Yep.
So this book is called "Bringing Up Oscar: The Story of the Men and Women Who Founded the Academy" by Deborah Ann Pollack. She says the founders included the following, and I'll just read these names for you.
Right.
Who included the following: actors, producers, writers, directors, technicians, and lawyers.
Okay, so the people, representatives from the 5 branches, with the 6th branch being lawyers. Okay.
Yeah, Joseph Arthur Ball, Charles H. Christie, Douglas Fairbanks, Benjamin Glazer, Jack Holt, M.C. Levy, Edwin J. Loeb, Bess Meredith, Mary Pickford. Take attention that there are some women here.
Right.
Joseph M. Schenck, Irving Thalberg, Jack L. Warner, Richard Bartholomew, George W. Cohen, Joseph W. Farnham, Sid Grauman, Henry King, Frank Lloyd, Jeannie McPherson, interesting lady her, Conrad Nagel, Roy J. Pomeroy, Milton Sills, Raoul Walsh, Kerry Wilson, Fred W. Beatson, Cecil B. DeMille, Cedric Gibbons, Michael Hoffman, Jesse Lasky, Harold Lloyd, Louis B. Mayer, Fred Niblo, Harry Raff, John Stahl, Harry Warner, and Frank Woods. Now, let's recognize that in that group there are probably no real people who dealt with foreign film. Okay.
Correct. In fact, there's not a foreign award for years and years and years and years and years and years. Right. I mean, the categories that exist fluctuate wildly throughout the history of the awards.
But we don't see in here Eric von Stroheim or F.W. Murnau or there's another name that escapes me.
Murnau is going to come up as like a person, but not as part of the Academy.
Not as a founder.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a.
So I have a question in your. So talking about just the very first awards, and we're gonna go over the context of the first awards all the time, over and over, I'm sure. So let's see.
Okay. With little
go ahead.
With little glitz or glamour, this I'm quoting from the book now.
Uh-huh.
With little glitz or glamour and absolutely no suspense, winners had been announced 3 months earlier. Okay.
Right.
The first award ceremony quietly took place on May 16, 1929, in the Blossom Room of Hollywood's Roosevelt Hotel, minus the red carpet. Tickets were $10 each. The
Oh, I
room,
have that they were $5, so they were $10.
well, it says here they were 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll check our sources. The room was simply decorated with Chinese lanterns. Candles topped each table, along with candy replicas of the award itself. If you didn't win one, you could at least eat one. Okay.
Okay.
Before dinner, there was an hour of dancing. Afterward, Academy President Douglas Fairbanks presented the following 12 awards, including two for Best Picture and Best
Right.
Director.
Right.
Best Picture, Wings. Best Picture, Sunrise. Best Actor, Emil Jannings. Best Actress, Janet Gaynor, for three films, actually. Best
Right.
Director, Fred Borzage. Best
Is it
Director, that
Borzagi?
was a drama. That was a drama. Fred what?
Is
Borzage?
it Borzagi?
Borzagi, yeah. Oh, okay.
I
That's seven
we're
seven.
gonna we're gonna look up how to pronounce his name.
Yeah. Best Director of Comedy was Louis Milestone, The Arabian Nights. Best Writing Original Story, Ben Hecht. Okay, Underworld. Best Writing Adaptation, Benjamin Gleiser's Seventh Heaven.
Right.
Best Writing Title Cards. Now think about that. Uh, Joseph W. Farnham, who was one of the founders. Okay. Uh, Best Cinematography, Charles Rochner and Carl Swiss for Sunrise. Best
Hmm.
Engineering Effects, no surprise, Roy J. Pomeroy, very influential fellow, became Wings. And Art Direction, William Cameron, Menzies, The Dove, and The Tempest. Uh,
Okay.
it's a simple beginning of almost no consequence,
Right. So here was my question. As you said, they were announced in February, right? Ahead of time, right? By
Yes,
telegram.
that's
So
right. That's right.
everybody was notified who won, who even knew who else was nominated, right? It's everybody knew ahead of time.
Hmm.
So it's essentially a dinner party, right? Um, and the actual presentation of the awards I think only lasted 15 minutes or so, right? Essentially the announcement of who was nominated, who won, and come get your
Come and get
candy.
it, Frank. I mean, yeah.
But here's my question. um so the awards were in May 16th, 1928. The nominees were
Actually,
notified
1929.
29. Sorry, you are correct. Nominees were notified through telegram in February 1928. In August 1928, Meyer contacted the Academy Central Board of Judges to decide winners, right? So they decided. My note here is that, however, according to the American director King Vidor, the voting for Best Picture was in the hands of the AMPAS founders, but also not all of the founders. I saw it from my source was that it was in the hands of only the following founders. So the following five people: Louis B. Mayer, Douglas Fairbanks, who was the president, Sid Grauman, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks' wife, and then Joseph Schenck. Is
Five
that
people.
correct? Five
Five people.
people?
Yeah.
Is that so? That's verified in your
I,
research
yeah,
as well? That were just the five
yes, in
people?
my recollection, I would have to look it up, but yes, my recollection is that there were five people who did the choosing. And of course, that
Well,
could
that
lead to all
they were
sorts.
the well. This was that it was they were the five people who did the choosing for the best picture
That is correct.
and sorry, outstanding picture, and then best unique and artistic picture. And that they were also the five people who decided, oh, just kidding, we're not ever going to have two categories, and we're retroactively going to squish them all together and say that Wings wins them all. Okay, that's one of
Yeah.
the things that I wanted to verify. Is was it really just five people who decided essentially the top award? Um, and so let's discuss just Best Picture, since that's what we're going to be discussing, um, or that's the basis for the films that we're going to be covering, right?
All
We're
right.
only going to be covering movies that are nominated for Best Picture. And again, that we'll talk about name changes for the award in just a second. We are going to end up just by necessity talking about best directors, best writers, best actors, all of those types of things. But we're gonna miss a lot of movies of quality movies because they weren't nominated, right? And we can talk about the as the years go on. But let's just talk about the Academy Award for Best Picture. So one of the unique components is that at the first Academy Awards, again, um, they were held in 1929, but they honored the best films of 1927 and 1928. So the calendar is quite convoluted. And the calendar continues to be quite convoluted for several years because it is not calendar years until I want to say 1934. But we'll get into those specifics later. But the first one happening in 1929 gives credit for the two previous years. Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
And at that time, there were two categories for overall film. That first category was Outstanding Picture. Okay. And the nominees for that were Seventh Heaven, Wings, The Racket. Okay. And I'm stating those in release order, actually. And then the other category was Best Unique and Artistic Picture, right? So a little bit more specialized. And the nominees for that category were Chang, A Dream of the Wilderness, which some people are now saying is a documentary. We can discuss that when we discuss it. Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, which won that category. And then The Crowd. Okay. So the each category was intended to honor different and equally important aspects of superior filmmaking. Okay. And that they were these two distinct categories. Best unique and artistic picture, I think, are more what we would consider to be art films that don't necessarily fall into the traditional scope of a movie. However, The Jazz Singer had already been made and released by the time the first Academy Awards happened. Okay.
Yes.
And so the Jazz Singer was disqualified from being nominated in either of these categories because it was so special, because it was at that time by itself, right, as a movie with synchronized sound. And so it wouldn't have fairly competed in either category. It would have beat everything in either category just purely because it's a new thing. And so it was disqualified from competing in those categories because people who know their history are going to say, why wasn't The Jazz Singer included? And this is why.
Yeah,
Okay. The
and that
Jazz
also
Singer,
leads to the idea that was there at that very first Academy Awards. They were already giving special awards, and
correct.
and the special award thing went on until today.
Right. And The Jazz Singer, because it was disqualified from being able to compete against these silent movies, essentially, and there was nobody, or there weren't any other films to compete against it, since it was essentially the first talkie. Um, it was given an honorary award. So The Jazz Singer has been honored by the Academy at the very first ceremony for being outstanding, essentially. Um, I thought I had some stuff written down about it, but I don't. Um, so two separate categories. Again, Wings won for Outstanding Picture, and Sunrise wins for Best Unique and Artistic Picture. However, the following year, the Academy dropped the Unique and Artistic Picture Award and decided that the award won by Wings was the highest honor that could be awarded. Okay. And so they
Hmm.
kind of retroactively made that decision the very next year, not years later, the very next year. So I think it was those five individuals who kind of said, we're it's inaudible at this point, right? Um, and they also decided that movies with synchronized sound could compete for the award. They were disallowed, essentially, the previous year. Um, the award kept the title Outstanding Picture for the next ceremony. However, the name of the award has undergone several changes over the years. However, since 1962, the award has been simply called Best Picture. Okay. So for the first 2 years, it's called the Academy Award for Outstanding Picture. Uh, for 1920 and 1930 to 1940, it's called the Academy Award for Outstanding Production. 1941 to 1943, it's called the Academy Award for Outstanding Motion Picture. You can see them refining things, right, as they go along. They're trying to get more and more specific because at this point, are we talking about static pictures? We're not. 1944 to 1961, it's the Academy Award for Best Motion Picture. So they've moved away from outstanding and are going to best. And then finally, 1962 to now, it's called Best Picture. Um, until 1950, the award was presented to a representative of the production company of the film. Okay. Um, but in 1950, that protocol was changed, so the award was presented to all credited producers rather than just some, probably not a Joe Schmo that they chose, but everybody who was a credited producer until 1999. Do you know what happened in 1999? They limited the number of producers who could receive the award to three.
Okay.
And that was because Shakespeare in Love had five credited producers who received the award. And they said, that's too many. We can't do it. Steven Spielberg currently holds the record for most nominations at 12 as a producer. He has only won once. And Kathleen Kennedy holds the record for most nominations without a win at 8. So these are producers responsible for best pictures, right? Um, People who super love Star Wars will recognize Kathleen Kennedy as a foundational name for our Star Wars fandom. Let's see. So I just want to go over, I'm just going over some stats, right? Some general information about
Okay.
winners over the years,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of ratings for Best Picture winners, since 1968, most Best Picture winners have been rated R under the MPA rating system. So that's when that system started, right?
Wow. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. Oliver is the only G rated film, and Midnight Cowboy is the only X rated film so far to win. Now, those movies won in back to back years, 1968 and 1969. So we basically go from G rated to X and from X rated to G within those 2 years. Okay. Um, Midnight Cowboy has now since been downgraded to an R rating, but at the time that it won, it was considered an X rated
Hmm.
explicit film.
Hmm.
And I so look forward to talking to you about that. But yeah, Oliver the musical is the only G rated film to win. Um, so here's some more information. Some genres of films or mediums, in the case of an animation, have received few or no nominations or awards. Okay. Only 3 animated films have been nominated for Best Picture. This is before they created the Best Animated uh, Picture category. Okay. So 3 have been nominated and none of them won at the time that they were nominated. Can you think of the first one, Dad? Do you remember?
I would think it would be Snow White,
No.
Pinocchio.
Oh, it's not until way later. I was alive.
When the first nominated animation was for Best Picture,
Correct.
Beauty and the Beast.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
1991. Yeah.
Oh, 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 oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh,
We'll
okay.
talk about Disney movies and whether or not they are appropriately acknowledged. There is a year in which Walt Disney wins 8 Academy Awards in one year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. The other is Up in 2009, and then Toy Story 3 in 2010.
Okay.
So Beauty and the Beast was kind of changed categories, or the category set up at that time.
Do they
Um,
still have a Best Animated Picture category?
they do.
Oh,
They made that as a separate category because enough animated films started to be considered worthy enough to, these are full-fledged films, why are they not being considered? And several were, and people were upset, right, that they weren't given a fair chance, right? It's the Jazz Singer competing against everything else, right? So yeah, they now have a separate category, and I think we'll continue to have a separate category. It's a different medium, right? Um, no comic book or superhero film has won, but only 3 have been nominated. Okay, now we're talking comic book or superhero, so that can also be comic strip or superhero. The most recent ones are Black Panther in 2018 and The Joker in 2019, but there was another nomination super early on. Do you think you have a
comic
guess? What?
comic book.
Comic.
Hmm. Superman is the only one I can think of.
No, it's actually Skippy in
Oh, it's Batman.
1931.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that Skippy was a cartoon
It was a comic strip.
comic strip. Okay.
Yeah. And Jackie Cooper
Hmm.
um, starred in it. He actually got a special Academy Award.
Yeah, that was with Wallace Beery, I think. Was the
Skippy
that was 1931? You said?
31, directed by Norman Taurog. Taurog? Is that how you say his name?
Well, let's find out here. Uh,
Taurog.
Skippy, 1931.
Yeah. Well, just know you're gonna have to
Well,
watch it.
wait a minute. A special award to Walt Disney for the creation of Mickey Mouse in
Yeah,
19.
yeah. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about Best Picture.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
Skippy was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. I'm not sure that that's the case.
It's
Let me look.
trust me, it's there.
Let me look. I'm going to verify this.
So it was nominated along with Cimarron, East Lynne, The Front Page, and
This was
Trader
what
Horn.
year? This was what year?
31. It came out in, yeah,
1931.
in 31.
Now, according to this book I have, Best Picture, it was none of those films. Aerosmith, Bad Girl, The Champ,
No, no,
Five
no,
Stars.
that's the next year before. For the 4th Academy
Got it.
Award.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Uh, yeah, Jackie Cooper was nominated, and who was? Huh.
So anyway, you're gonna have to watch that movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
based on a comic strip, okay. So again, no comic strip or superhero film has won, but there have been 3 nominations. Okay.
Okay.
Only 2 fantasy films have won, although more have been nominated, but only 2 have won, and that
For
is
best
Lord of the
picture.
Rings. What Best Picture? And that is Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King in 2003, which at the time I remember thinking they're going to give it to Peter Jackson because he didn't win for the other 2. That's a whole thing. And then The Shape of Water in 2017.
Okay.
Only 1 horror film has won. Do you know which movie that is?
Best picture.
1 Best Picture. You got to scoot in your chair so I can see you on camera, though.
I would say Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
No. The Silence of the Lambs in
Oh, that's
1990.
they call that a horror picture. Okay, okay.
Well, they do. Um, Only 5 other horror films have been nominated.
Okay. Was Frankenstein nominated?
No.
Was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde nominated?
No.
How about the Curse of the Cat People? How
No.
about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein? I have no idea.
The
Because
movie,
the definition of horror film it escapes
I
me.
know they have changed dramatically, and we will actually talk about some of that as we move through the years, and the influence of films that are not nominated have on movies that are nominated. So no, the only horror film that has won is Silence of the Lambs in 1991, but only 5
Yeah.
others have been nominated, and
Now,
they
what are
are
they? Yeah.
The Exorcist in 1973 was nominated for Best Picture.
Mhm.
Jaws 1975, potentially one of my most favorite films.
Not a horror picture, but okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that. I think it is classified as a horror. I would love to for us to later talk about what would you deem to be a horror movie. The Sixth Sense from 1999. Did you see that movie?
I don't remember. If I did, it didn't make an impression on me.
Do you know the twist at the end?
No, I don't remember anything about the film.
Okay, that's okay. Black Swan from 2010.
It's a horror picture?
Did you see it?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Not particularly. It's
So
not.
I would think it's considered to be like a psychological horror film, like it's a thriller.
It's a drama.
So are you saying Pshaw because you think these are too mild?
The definition horror picture uh, calls out to my mind monsters and uh, uh, the occult and things like that. The Exorcist could be, I suppose, a horror picture,
Okay,
but the rest of it, no.
okay. And then the last one is Get Out from 2017,
Yeah, I have no
made by
idea what that is. Yeah.
Jordan Peele, black filmmaker, about a white woman who takes her black boyfriend home to meet her white family, and then
Did you say to beat her white family or to
to
meet her white?
meet her white family, and then ultimately they do bad things to black people.
Very good. Okay.
Okay. All right. Uh, Interesting. Um, you've seen The Exorcist, right? Did I already ask you that?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
What did
Read the
you,
book too.
yeah? What did you think?
The only thing I remember about it is my father saying that he saw it too, and he thought it was like Laurel and Hardy.
He thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought he
You
did.
know what? I can understand why he said that. There are people who were traumatized by seeing that film.
Well, I know
Uh,
that there were people who were traumatized by that other horror movie, which you haven't mentioned, called E.T.
hey, guess what? E.T. was nominated for Best Picture.
I'm sure, but not in the horror
Uh,
category. But it's
Not
not
in
a
the horror. not in the horror category, but guess what? If we continue with this long enough, I'm gonna have to watch it again. Eventually, everyone, you'll know that my story about E.T., I'm not going to share it right now, though. Yes, it is considered a horror movie in my household. Several science fiction films have been nominated, but only one has won, and that is most recently Everything Everywhere All at
No,
Once.
okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Um, so classified as science fiction. Um, and then no documentary feature has ever been nominated. There's been a separate documentary
Category. Yeah.
category for lots of years, although those fluctuate wildly in the beginning. However, Chang, which was nominated for unique, outstanding, whatever, was nominated in the first ceremony or in the first category. So some people say that that's a documentary. Some people say it's not. Once we get to it, which will be soon, we
It's a
can
horror
discuss
movie
it.
too, I presume.
And some people would say that it is a horror film based on some of the things that you see on camera that are real. Okay. Um, Here's some more sequel nominations and winners. 9 films that were presented as direct sequels have been nominated for Best Picture. Okay. The Bells of St. Mary's from 1945, which was a direct sequel to the winner in 1944, Going My Way.
Yes, sort of. Yeah.
The Godfather Part 2
Yeah.
from 1974.
That
The
won.
Godfather, what?
That won an Academy Award, didn't it? Godfather 2?
It did. We're just talking about nominations. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But yes, that one actually won. Part 1 and Part 2 won. The
yeah.
Godfather Part 3 was nominated in 1990. Lord of the Rings The Two Towers was nominated in 2002. Lord of the Rings The Return of the King was nominated in 2003 and won. Toy Story 3 in 2010. Mad Max Fury Road was nominated in 2015. Avatar The Way of Water was nominated in 2022. And Top Gun Maverick was nominated in 2022. The Godfather series and the Lord of the Rings series, all 3 movies in both of those series have been nominated for Best Picture. Okay, so 6 out of 6 movies nominated. Godfather won 2 out of their 3 nominations, and Lord of the Rings only won 1 out of 3 nominations. It's pretty interesting. And then finally, at least this is just stats for the
Yeah,
overall
sure,
category,
sure.
right? Version availability. Now, this has been something that has been a little bit difficult talking about. We're going to watch all of the nominees and gaining access to them. But no Best Picture winner has been lost, though a few, such as All Quiet on the Western Front and Lawrence of Arabia, exist only in a form altered from their original award-winning release form.
No kidding. Oh,
Yeah. So All Quiet on the Western Front, which I've seen, I don't know, a dozen times. Apparently not the same version that was in theaters. This has usually been due to editing for reissue and subsequently partly restored by archivists, which I think would be the case for All Quiet on the Western Front. Other winners and nominees, such as Tom Jones, prior to its 2018 reissue by the Criterion Collection and the British Film Institute, and Star Wars, are widely available but only in subsequently altered versions. I am sad that the original Star Wars trilogy is no longer available, unaltered. The Broadway Melody originally had some sequences photographed in 2-color Technicolor, but the only footage that survives is in black and white. Okay. The 1928 film The Patriot is the only Best Picture nominee that is lost. Okay, only about 1/3 of it still exists, so the complete film is not available anymore. The Racket, also from 1928, was believed lost for many years until a print was found in Howard Hughes's archives. okay, which may or may not have been in that tiny little house that you saw behind the Channel 8 studio here in Las Vegas. Um, it has since been restored and shown on Turner Classic Movies, so that's how we're going to essentially be able to watch that one. The surviving prints of 1931's East Lynne and 1934's The White Parade only exist within the UCLA Film Archive.
Okay.
So, and again, we're talking about prints of the film, not necessarily how available the film is to the public, but that's pretty good. But one of the fun things is that a few weeks ago, I think it was a few weeks ago. Yeah, a few weeks ago, I was very excited because I had finally found all 6 of the first nominees available for us
But
to
not the whole, the Patriot. You didn't find the whole.
What did I just say? Yeah. Wait. Yeah. The Patriot isn't in until the next year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Until the second year.
Right. Did you find the whole thing though?
No, but that's not what I
Okay.
was talking about. I was excited that from the first
Right.
year,
Right. Yes.
so
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
outstanding picture and 3 best and
Yeah.
unique artistic picture, I have found
Yes.
all 6 of those available online for us to look at. Which when I first set out to do this, I thought, oh, there's only 2 available, and then we went to 3, and now it's 6 out of 6.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it'll be
Good.
interesting for us
Good.
to
Good. Okay.
address those. But yeah, the Patriots the next year, and so it doesn't exist at all in the world. But there are going to be other movies that we're not going to have access to because they're not available digitally, and that is how we have to consume them. There are many film buffs and collectors who own copies of these things either on Laserdisc or VHS or DVD or Blu-ray, and that is not how we are consuming these films. They need to be readily available for streaming in some capacity. Otherwise, they're lost because I cannot afford to have a physical collection of any of this stuff.
I want to verify with you that I did find a reference here to in 1928-29. Only 5 individuals made the final selection.
That is verified. Okay.
Yeah, let me look here to say the final selections are. What happened?
Nothing. I'm
Disappointed.
giggling that you verified it, and I'm glad to know that I was not wrong. That's it for this pregame mini episode. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for our first regular season of Shea Cinema, the Best Picture Project. Season 1 will be covering the first Academy Awards, which was in 1929. We will be watching and reviewing 6 films nominated for Best Picture, which were released in 1927 and 1928. All of these films are silent, so come and sit with us for what will be sure to be quite an interesting endeavor.